Hello friends, welcome to JavaEE Servlet tutorial. So in the next 4 videos we are going to learn about cookies. So here in this video we will understand the concept of cookies. Cookies are actually short information that stores on client browser. Instead of saying a client browser, we can say that these informations are persisted to the disk. So the disk in the sense the client machine in which the browser is running. If you see, the cookies are actually persisted. So the persistent location is the client browser. That means in the client box the cookies are stored. So when server needs, it will request the client machine to send those cookies. So this is the web server, but we already saw that cookies will get stored in the client browser, and cookies means the short information that get stored inside the client browser. So what happens? So first client will send a request. So when client send the request, server will send response, and when based on the need, server may send the cookie request also as part of this response. So it's optional, but when it is required, it will attach the cookies as part of the response, and based on the response, in the response itself, the cookie request will get stored, and when it goes to the client browser and client browser sees that there is a request for adding a cookie in the response object. So the browser can be anything. It can be IE or Chrome or Opera, whatever it is. So the browser will then store the cookie inside the client browser. So at later point in time, when client sends the second request, it sends the cookies also. So it reads the cookies from the stored location, and when it is sending the subsequent request, it will send the cookies as part of the second request. Some examples are, say for example, in a browser, when you are visiting a particular site, you want to decide the font, color theme, and format of display. So all this stuff, if user want to store it as their preferences, then they can send in the subsequent request. That means web server will first decide what cookies they want to store. So as part of this request, the URL parameter will give the user preferences through form field data. Then server will create the required cookies object to preserve that user selection or the user preferences. So those will go as a cookie, and it will get stored in the client browser. Then when user loads user sends the subsequent request, they send all those cookies information. That means their preference will goes with the request, and server, when it is forming the subsequent response, that time it will make use of those cookies and creates the dynamic content to meet the user preferences. Now let us see how to create cookies. So we can create a cookie object using the cookie. So this is the class instance, and you can create instance of cookie by passing two parameters. So the first one tells name of the cookie, and second one stores value. So the value can be string, object, or whatever you want. You can store as part of the value. So once a cookie is created, so this is the cookie object. Once the object is created, you can access the function set max age. So this set max age will set the age of the cookie. So here you will pass seconds. So if you pass 60, that means the cookie will live in the client browser for 1 minute. So you can set max age. So this will take care of clearing the cookie on the client machine. So in the previous slide, we saw that server, while sending the response, it will send the request to add the cookie in the client disk. So let's say we have HTTP servlet response. So actually you will create a cookie with the name and value. Then you will set the maximum age for that cookie. After that, you will make a call to add cookie on the HTTP servlet response. So the response will now have the cookie. So when a response object is going to the browser, it will have the HTML content. Also, it will have one or more cookie object along with the response. So when a browser sees this, it takes this information and renders that as part of the HTML document. Then it takes these cookies and stores that internally in the list. So this part we already saw how to send a response, and in the response we actually form the HTML message in string format. Then we will use the print writer to send those. So when we push those information to the client, these cookies also goes to the client machine. Then the client machine browser will take care of storing these cookie in the client hard disk. So which location it will store all those stuff, we no need to worry. So the browser will take care of those. So to understand this, let us say we have two client browsers. So we know that the cookies are stored inside the client browser machines. So initially a request will go. Based on the request, the server will decide whether cookies needs to be stored on the client. Then when it is sending the response back, that time it will pack the cookies. So once a browser sees those cookies, they will add those cookies. So let's say likewise we have cookies in two different client machine. So the cookies may be different. So here you can consider this as X, Y, Z, and here you can see it as X, Y, T. So when the client is sending the subsequent request. So as you see here, there are two different clients, and when they send the subsequent request, they will read all these cookies, and those cookies goes as part of the request. So when server receives these requests from two different client, this one is from, let's say, request 1, client 1. This is from request 2, client 2. So when server receives it, the server can read those cookies using the getCookies method. So it will make use of the HTTP serverless request, and it will make a call to. So the getCookies will return cookies array. So there may be a number of cookie for that specific web domain. So using getCookies, the servlet can get all the cookies which was stored in the client machine as part of the previous response. So in the subsequent request, you will get the client machine pushes those cookies to web server, right? So the servlet make use of the API getCookies, and getCookies will return the cookie array. And if you remember in the previous slide, when we are creating the cookie, we created it using the name and value pair. So when you get the cookie object, you can supply the name and you can retrieve the cookie value. So then the server will make use of this retrieved value and performs further action. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye. In the subsequent video, we will create an example that will make use of cookies, and you will learn how to store cookies in the client machine, and you will also learn how to read the cookies from the client machine.